Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Can we bring up the fact that you have been compared to Danielle Fishel online?
You should. You know why? Because nobody ever brings that up. But somebody actually changed her Wikipedia to saying, I think it was like Jessica Kleinschmidt, a.k.a. Danielle Fishel. Somebody like put my name in her Wikipedia, which was like a dope moment for me, which is why I don't know why I'm only worth $47 on eBay, but that's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Welcome into Missing the Point. I am your host, Marcangelo, as always joined alongside my Broadway Joe Malkin, and we are here today to discuss the disaster known as the MLB. And to do that, we have a very special guest. She has had stints with FanDuel, MLB.com, Yahoo Sports, and most recently with NBC Bay Area, covering the Oakland Athletics and the San Francisco Giants. She's the former host of Bach Talk at NBC, Corked Up, and is the current host of Burning Questions with Eric Burns. Please welcome Jessica Kleinschmidt. How are you?
I'm good. And I love you already, but we were not calling it the MLB.
Oh, right.
The rest is great. The rest, you killed it. Also shows how many podcasts I've had and how many that have failed. But that's all part of the business. Let's go.
We rarely fail around here with our guests. We don't do it very often.
Yeah.
That's right. There is obviously, this is usually the time when baseball season is ramping up, right? We have spring training, pitchers and catchers. This is when the diehards like Joe, Craig, who I did not include in the intro, and he'll never let me forget about that, are really getting amped up. But now we are in the middle of this, for all intents and purposes, right? Like a pissing contest between the Players Association and the owners. What is your stance on this? Should it have ever come to this point, Jessica? And how do we, will there be a season?
It absolutely should not have gotten to this point. The number that pops out to me is 43, and that's the number of days that any conversation was even taking place. And I, just as a personal person, I'm a planner. Before, my spring training 2024 is already planned. That's how it should have been, right? And the one thing that I have the biggest issue with is the momentum that was building up around 12:30, midnight, around that time. I was getting positive vibes. I was hearing literally good things from my sources until the very last minute. And then who was that? The pitcher that came out and said they tried to put this fine print stuff in at the last minute. That's the part that I'm struggling with the most, because it's so hard to get the players to trust you, let alone as a player, the Players Association, because you're representing so many guys. But then Rob Manfred and the owners, all that trust is just out the window. And you're making the players look like a fool. But I will say, I've never seen the players more unified in all the years that I've covered this game. And, there's been, the one thing I think about was when Dallas Keuchel was bummed a few years back when the Astros didn't make any acquisitions around the trade deadline, and boom, they get Justin Verlander. A lot of these guys were a lot more outspoken. And I think that's tenfold now. They're not just updating their profile pictures. They're tweeting out how Marcus Stroman said Manfred got to go, I think it's sad. That's the message. I think it's beautiful. They're all sticking together. But I also want those people that are complaining and bitching that these guys are millionaires, that if you look at the median about what all these guys are getting paid, it's less than hockey players. And so I hope that these people that are complaining know that they deserve to be paid what they're worth in their jobs. Why should it be any different from this? And, there's so many little things, and I feel like the players are being more than fair what they're owed and everything like that. So no, we shouldn't have gone here. And to your other question, I do believe we're going to have a season. I am very confident we will. My gut is telling me just April's not going to happen. I think if we're lucky, we'll get it through May, very latest June. But I'm very confident we'll have a season. I just don't know when that could start.
So to your original point, I have one more question before Joel jump in. Is, the ML, it's not the major league players for the most part, right? They can afford to hold out for a little while. It's the minor leaguers that you really feel for, right? It's because they're not raking in the dough. And I think, there's an emergency fund for MLB that will pay each player, was it $1,500 a week if it ever gets to that point? And I don't know, if you go from making $40 million a year guaranteed to now you're getting paid $1,500 a week, I think that's the owners trying to force their hand. But my last question in this opening segment would be, isn't the number 141? Because if you get the owners to a point where they don't have 142 games televised, they start losing money on their TV deal. So don't you need to hold out that long if you're the players to actually get what you want?
I'm sure that's a big part of it too. Coming from, I have a TV background, having worked with NBC, and I see how much money goes into some of these contracts. It's like insane. Cause I'm just obsessed with the players' contracts, right? You go to Spot Rack and you're like, damn, these guys be doing good. But then you see everything else and, it's totally different. Now, mind you, when I was on TV, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm getting paid the amount that they're getting paid, but that's okay. Like, all right, I'm the one that has to sit up there and do my eyeliner perfectly and talk shit about baseball players. And you just get to run scot-free. It's fine. I would never talk shit about the A's or any of the baseball players, just FYI. But yeah, if you want, that's a total thing. I don't know much about that stuff just because my mind's always with the players and everything like that. But I see where you're coming from. And that's certainly something that's being taken into account. And, we shouldn't have had canceled games. And here's the thing that I was really interested in. I'm a baseball nerd through and through. I'm okay with them not having 162 games in a season. But Mama would like to know ahead of time, and don't make it dramatic where it's like Rob Manfred wants to cancel these 2 series. And you're like, okay, you could have just said ahead of time, hey, just to let you know, we're not going to do it. So the way that it was handled was it made me feel gross, so there's kind of that. But yeah, the TV deals is certainly something that's been taken into account, I would assume, as far as the owners are.
There's one big thing in what Mike brought up there that is actually going to save baseball a little bit.
A good attitude.
A good attitude. Number one. Yes.
Yes.
I love all the players that are tweeting and, and Jared Carabas, who we all follow, I'm sure, at least the 3 of us. I don't know if you do, Jessica, but he's
a
very
personal friend. And unfortunately, I do follow Jared Carabas. Yes.
Unfortunately. We're still trying to get him to come on. We got Steve Peralt. We're trying to get him to come on at some point too. But besides the point, we're talking to you. So one of the biggest things is with minor league players, they're not part of the Players Association.
Correct.
So until they are on the 40-man roster or called up to the major leagues in September, they are not part of.
They're 2 separate entities, and people don't understand that. So that's actually good that you brought that up. So it's literally 2 different segments. Yeah.
And right now, what are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of pictures out of training camp that are minor league players, guys.
Eric Thames is a fucking minor league baseball player right now. What is that? What? It's just weird.
We like that. We like those that are going to still play because, because we've brought up the Major League Players Association so often because I'm going to ask a question about Rob Manfred in a second. But, we look back at the early 2000s, Kevin Millar and Barry Bonds. Kevin Millar mostly was a player that was not even on the video games in the early 2000s because he crossed the picket line in 1995 and was never allowed to be in the Players Association. And I'm almost thinking we're going to see that, and they're going to try and tell me if I'm crazy for thinking this. If they push out too long, the owners may try and push to play with minor leaguers and replacement players until they can get the major leaguers back. Is that an option for the owners?
I could see it being an option, but then I think of the superstars that would be missing out, and those are the guys that are selling the tickets. I know girlfriends of mine who couldn't stand baseball, but they want to go watch Chris Bryant bat because they think he's cute. Those guys,
not bad.
I'm not bashing on that at all. I love that they want to come and they want to, but I'll tell them a little nugget about Chris, or Marcangelo is going to go up to bat. I'll tell them about whatever. But you have to remember the superstars are what's, quote, selling the game. Mind you, baseball is very difficult to sell. And I know that. And because I've been trying to do it for 5, 6, 7 years of my life, actually more like 20 something years since I was a kid. But, I could see that happening, but I don't think they would stoop to that level, knowing that people will just pay a ticket to watch Christian Yelich go up to bat. People would pay money to watch Yelich strike out. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of a thing that's done. But I mean, it's not, after everything we've seen, I don't think it's the craziest idea. But at the end of the day, like, if you can go to a minor league ballpark, people go to minor league ballparks really not to watch baseball. They want to go to there's probably like a really good deal on food. It's a really weird, like, themed night, like Hawaiian t-shirt, hot dog with mayonnaise night, whatever they're doing it's such weird stuff, but you go for that. And it's for the community and everything like that. So, I mean, sure, but I don't think they would do anything like that where people, call ahead of time a bajillion years to watch DeGrom pitch. And Scherzer starting in for the Mets would be just insane. And Shohei Ohtani, I mean, that's obviously a little bit different. Those guys, like, you'd be stupid to do that. But that's not the craziest idea I've ever heard.
So that brings me to my question about Rob Manfred. Who is the worst commissioner in American sports, and why is it Rob Manfred?
I don't feel comfortable answering that, but I do know that he's taking a lot of bullets for some people. I'm not sticking up for him at all. I actually have his back in certain things. Like, I know he wants to make it more fun, which I don't like that he was trying to shave off some things, but I understood why he was doing it. Mind you, I covered the game, and I don't think I've ever sat through a 9-inning baseball game. It's just, it's a slow game. What are you going to do? And I'm obsessed with it. I have to take a break, even if I'm covering it and all of that. So I just, from seeing it on my perspective, it's going to take a miracle for the players and fans to give him any sort of respect. And like I said, I do know he's taking a lot of bullets for people, and I was a little uncomfortable with the way that he was smiling during the announcement of the cancellation and all of that. But I can't stop thinking about that 12:30 deadline, the momentum, and then all of a sudden they're blaming it on the players. That bothered me a lot. I have personal relationships with some of these players, and that just breaks my heart. And it's kind of like, I feel, as a woman in this game, people automatically have this stereotype of me. And I feel like that's what the owners were doing toward the players. And that broke my heart as well. So I'm not going to make any personal digs at Rob, but I do know that I don't think he never really had a lot of respect from people, from what I've heard. And it's just even worse now. And that's too bad.
To follow up to that then, and kind of change the line of questioning, as someone who covers the game and has a lot of personal friends who are players, should we as fans, not as podcasters or, people that cover the game, should we as fans give Rob Manfred a little more leeway, respect, and benefit of the doubt based on what he's dealing with? I mean, should we do that?
I feel like however you feel about Rob Manfred, you're probably going to have a lot of evidentiary support to back up why you feel that way.
That's a good answer. I like that answer.
Just to let you know, Jess, if you don't feel comfortable saying anything out loud about Manfred, you can just Slack me and I'll use it as my take.
Oh, perfect.
And
I also have always wanted to say evidentiary support because I did watch Legally Blonde recently.
So I think we're just in a weird spot right now.
That's what it is. It's weird, dude. Like, it's the perfect definition.
Because here's my reasoning. I was obviously born and raised in the Boston area, so I was a diehard Red Sox fan, right? Still, I wouldn't call myself a diehard anymore. I'm just, I know a lot about.
Why not?
Honestly, I think after 2004, once we were chasing it for so long, and then you got it because there was no more there's no reason to hate really the Yankees anymore, right? And then you did it again in 2007, which is cool, but now you're in this position where they're not underdogs. They actually should always be competitive. And if you don't find yourself in the playoffs, then it's a joke. But this isn't about me, Jess.
Right. No, that was a journalist, Jess. question.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
But I feel like we find ourselves in this weird spot where the game is losing fans.
Yeah.
And right now, from an outsider's point of view, it looks like that there have been unrealistic expectations set by some owners, and they're making their commissioner speak on behalf of them and the players to accept it. At what point do you think the owners realize, baseball will probably never die, but at what point is it irreparable? And let's just get back to earning more fans back to the sport, bringing more people in, and making this the game that it was again in 1998 minus the juice.
The juice.
The juice. The juice.
It doesn't have to be necessarily steroids or performance enhancing stuff. That's whatever, right? The reason I was on both the Cardinals and the Cubs when I played Little League during the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire thing. Like, that's going to be me. That's going to be my memory forever.
How many Little League home runs did you hit?
Just one, but it was off. It was off of like this guy who was like a star football player. He actually did get popped for steroids that like actually like, okay, dude, like no wonder my brother couldn't keep up with you as a running back. Like, dude, you were freaking insane. But it was off the tallest fence in my Little League park. So that was also a thing. But like the dude got a freaking long ball hit off him by a chick. Like, that sucks.
Especially when we grew up, that it was like more. Now it's like normal, but back then.
But now this dude sees me on TV talking about the game that he didn't succeed in. So that sucks too.
I think we could probably figure out exactly when he decided to inject steroids into his body in his
100%.
life.
I was like, You're 12. Do you want to be 14? As I crossed the plate. There you go. You're going to need more than an energy drink, boy.
Yeah.
When I'm done with you. Anyways, but yeah, so I feel like we also need to embrace pop culture. I feel like that's super important too. And I know my demographic, I'm not going to say I'm a pretty girl, but like, I know what I look like. I know what my demographic is. And I can look that up on my Instagram, 84% male, 30 to 50% age range, which is no different from like the average baseball fan, right? And so maybe it's a little bit older. I think it's like a 55 plus white male is the demographic when we looked at the actual research that we did at NBC. And it's been the same since forever. And that was my little nod to Sandlot, if you will. And I feel like if we don't embrace, NBA is like a highlight driven sport. There's nothing we can do that with MLB, but I think we need to remind these guys, like these guys, literally the demographic is there's fun stuff going on, like I want to see what Francisco Lindor's wearing when he walks to the wild card game, like that's what I want to learn about, because that's how it is in NBA. We see like LeBron is wearing like shorts, but a tuxedo. Like, what is that? I want to know about that. And I think that's important too. But I also think we need to like reintroduce the sport as not just chicks dig the long ball. Like, I love a defensive play. That's sexy. I love a turn two. I love like a really good base hit that puts you up for the right situation. And Aaron Judge is coming up to bat. Like, you need to know more of the sexy parts of baseball without me having to like lose my breath and explain it to you. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I feel like media is doing a good enough job, like with TikToks and stuff like that, to kind of reintroduce it. But I will say the beauty is, like, when I talked to Bob Melvin, because, he was my manager for 3 or 4 years for the A's. He was really great about like embracing the new stuff while sticking to the like traditional. And I feel like if we find more people like that, then we're golden. But a lot of kids, like, they're used to TikToks that last 2 minutes at the most. Remember Vines were a thing, 6 seconds if you were over it. Like, that's scary. And, just stuff like that. Like, even when I do a podcast, people are terrified to listen to a 45-minute podcast. And then here I am telling you 45 minutes to get like, I don't know how to not talk. Like, what do you want? Like, I chose the right profession, but it's just stuff like that. It's reminding that there's more than just throw the ball, hit the ball, you're done. And I feel like that kind of plays into a lot of these owners may think these players are silly by not reading the fine print. They're some of the smartest individuals I've ever met in my life. And that's why I love my job, is because they give you insightful answers. They're great people. That too. Listen to like a good interview with a baseball player. And I was actually working on a project, and my boyfriend and I were watching a Giancarlo Stanton interview. And my boyfriend's like, I know who Giancarlo is, but like, I don't know who he is. And you sit and watch, you're listening to him and you're like, oh, I want to know more about that guy. How the fuck don't people know about Giancarlo Stanton?
Well, that's what they did with Mike Trout for years, right? Like they wanted Mike Trout to be the face of the league and they had him doing Subway commercials and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, there's no face of baseball. You can't, football players wear helmets.
And we still recognize them out in public.
Exactly. Like I could recognize probably the most obscure football players, but I probably wouldn't know Shohei Ohtani from anybody else.
I think you would.
I think you might.
Well, Mike Trout. Let's go with Mike Trout because he looks like a generic white guy.
I did a one-on-one with Matt Chapman. My boyfriend had no idea who that was. And he's a baseball fan.
That's too bad.
Yeah. And Matt Chapman's the most electric, like him and Wilson are the most popular guys in the A's. And he had no idea who I was talking to.
Which is a problem in baseball.
And what a crappy boyfriend.
I can't believe you didn't dump him on the spot.
I was like, oh, you didn't realize who that was? Okay. But if it was Mookie Betts, like you'd be running up and like asking for an autograph. That's at least positive. Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to interview Mookie Betts.
Right.
My boyfriend.
That's a sore spot here in Boston.
Yes.
Yeah. Please. We don't need to talk about him anymore.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Too soon. Shoot. I'm sorry. I usually know my audience.
All right. It's okay.
Damn it.
Okay.
If only I was wearing like a Red Sox sweatshirt for you.
I don't even know. Right. And you said you were a diehard fan. And now you're not. I think you just leaned into it a little bit. Oh, and the Boston hat too. Yeah. Cool, guys. Yeah. You know what? Bash on Will Clarke. He's behind me. Just back.
We love Will Clarke.
You can't bash on Will Clarke if you tried, right?
De facto Giants fan, but I'll get to that why in a little while. But back to your sexy play thing, I actually had I talked to a college softball coach the other day. We had a leadoff hitter who got on base by way of a single to left field, and then she stole second. She was bunted to third and then driven in on a ground out to first. And that was the only run we got that inning. And as he's walking back to the dugout from third base, I'm behind the backstop and I'm like, hey, that's a really nice inning. And he's like, why? We only got one run. I said, that's a sexy way to score a run. That's literally how they teach it in Little League. That's exactly what you want to do. It's not about scoring 100 runs or hitting a home run. It's about getting the.
For sure. I played two baseball games in one Saturday. I wanted to kill myself. It was insane. 3 softball games. I could play a 4th.
Absolutely. I love softball.
Me too.
It's a great sport.
I love it. I really loved playing softball. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about?
No, you cannot.
Oh, I feel like I've earned the right to after you just brought up Mookie Betts and ignored my.
You called it the MLB, bro. Like you are way behind right now. Don't even.
Yeah, I guess we'll call it even, right? We'll just
cool.
Why did David Ortiz get elected to the Hall of Fame and Barry Bonds didn't?
It's a great question. You fucking tell me. Here's the thing. When I was younger, I wrote my high school senior thesis. I'm a college dropout. I don't know what the fuck his thesis is, but I wrote it on steroids. All the boys wrote about steroids, but they wrote about what it did to your body. Your girl did. I wrote about what it does to your public character. And this was Rafael Palmeiro. And I remember getting so pissed off at finding out that Barry Bonds did steroids. But then I see Rafael Palmeiro, who has like my body. I'm like, wait a second. So I leaned into it and I read all the court documents and how they were just lying. And then I got even more pissed. But as time went on, I was like, well, wait a second. They're all doing it. And that wasn't just steroids. They were doing cocaine. They were doing greenies. Babe Ruth was hammered half the time.
Right.
I think like you could call that an enhancer of some sort, like, because he was an alcoholic. He had to do it. So it was just interesting from that dynamic, but I'm right there with you. I think it's crap. The thing that I'm worried about is I don't know how the hell Barry Bonds will ever get in the Hall of Fame. Because the election or the electors, like that one little group of guys, they're very old school, you know. And I just read that article, and if y'all saw it, from Bob Nightingale. He sat down with Goose Gossage, and he just ripped Barry and Clemens to shreds. And you're like, that's like the Hall,
right?
And it's also just kind of like, I can't tell you who's told me this, but I was I was talking to a player recently, and he's a big Joey Votto fan. And I was like, do you think Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer? He's like, I don't know, man, but there's too many fucking nerds like voting for the Hall of Fame.
Right. Also, okay, Barry Bonds was a dick to reporters. Fine. I get it. It's fine. But that is the only reason as to why Ortiz is in and Barry Bonds isn't.
I'm right there with you.
I'm not advocating for David Ortiz to not be in the Hall of Fame. I'm advocating for Barry Bonds to be in it, because you cannot have a Hall. That guy was a Hall of Fame player in 1998.
I totally understand. And one of my favorite quotes that I heard, because when I was at NBC Sports Bay Area, I did the A's. My counterpart for the Giants, Alex Pavlovich, phenomenal writer. He said, the most historically great hitter will not be in a museum about baseball.
Right.
If you put it down in layman's terms, that's like going to whatever the Louvre. It's like Vouv, like the champagne. I got to remember that. Louvre. Right. Why is the R there? What is that? There's an R there, right?
That's French.
So dumb. That's like when, as a journalist, I was told, if you have something to say, don't say it in 15 words, say it in 4. It's the same thing. Where's the R? Like, okay, anyways, that's fine. My last name is Kleinschmidt, though. What am I talking about? Anyways.
Brett Favre's name is spelled wrong.
Is the Mona Lisa in there?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That would be like, I don't think we should have the Mona Lisa in there because she smiles weird. That's a really bad. I don't see. This is why I'm a college dropout. Never mind. Next question.
Totally understand what you're trying to say there. 100%. Okay. So here's what I think they should do is abolish the BBWAA and let the players or the current Hall of Famers vote on who gets into the Hall of Fame.
The players is interesting though, because of the 5-year thing. So they would have to, you know what I mean? Like some of those players wouldn't have been playing with Derek Jeter or whatever, but you could watch highlights, but that means like you're putting in the same category as me, which is like, nobody cares about my opinion.
I'd rather you be voting than a lot of those old white men.
I'm terrified to vote because I eventually want to have children. I don't want their lives to be threatened because I didn't vote for the right thing.
But see, based on this conversation, you would.
That's what's interesting too. Like even analytics, think of, like I work with so many coaches who are like, screw analytics, but I work with so many coaches that love analytics, right? I remember I brought up to Brandon Crawford once about one of the new defensive stats because I'm like I said, I'm a defensive nut. And he was like, I don't care. I go by the eye test. And I was like, oh, cool. And he actually kind of felt bad. I was like, no, I want to know these things. And then I asked Chappie the same question and Nolan Arenado the same question. And all three of them gave you different answers. And so that's kind of interesting too. I mean, even for me, who's not like hugely into analytics, I'm not into analytics. I'm a former ball player to a certain extent. So I get where they're coming from. But like watching Brandon Crawford, he's one of the best defensive shortstops I've ever seen in my life. But if you look at his batting average, like, oh, so he shouldn't be in the Hall because he's not like a certain, it's weird. I think you need to use that and stuff. But I also feel like you can't have a Hall of very good. You should.
The Hall thing is stupid to me in general because what's the first thing you see when you walk into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Oh, there's Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Well, right. Well, the precedent that they're setting though, right? If we just think about it, and we don't need to name all of the names, but who's the next player to get in that was not linked to steroids? It has to be Derek Jeter. I don't know of anyone that's coming down the pipeline that could be elected based off of this ridiculous criteria.
Was Jones linked to steroids? Andrew Jones?
I thought he was.
I thought he was.
You don't know, right?
I mean, Barry Bonds never tested positive. Never.
But he was linked though, because you asked the link.
Right.
Yeah, but the reporters can use, but that's where it comes back to the reporters. The reporters will use that as their scapegoat. It's just like the owners using the players as the scapegoat.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably use scapegoat too. I'd be like, well, I mean, I have to remind myself, like, I mean, I've been so lucky when it comes to interviews. So like, I've actually never had a one-on-one with Barry Bonds before, but I don't know as a reporter how I would, if I could actually say like, he was a butthead to me. So that 400 batting average doesn't mean shit.
Right.
I think you can actually do that. Even Kurt Schilling, him and I are completely different views.
Sure.
He needs to be in the Hall.
See, I actually, as a Red Sox fan, disagree with you, but
right. But I think his numbers prove he needs to be in the Hall.
Yeah.
Don't like him. Probably won't buy him a drink ever, but
He can buy me one. I wouldn't buy him
I'll
one.
buy you a drink.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. Look at that. Look at that.
He doesn't call it the MLB.
Jesus.
Jesus doesn't either. Don't bring him into this. Don't you dare make this a religious thing.
In my defense, baseball is a religion to a lot of people, and it was in my rundown as the MLB.com.
So it's my fault.
The MLB.com?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that was my fault.
Right. I just read.
No,
That's all I do.
don't blame it on me. I'm reading the rundown now.
All right. So, well,
The
Jess,
MLB.
is it runs batted in? Is it RBI or RBIs?
So when I type it, it's RBI. When I say it, I'll say RBIs.
I agree. I do
Yes.
the exact same thing.
Yeah. But it's runs batted in.
Right.
Should I just go like for the rest of my career? He's got 17 runs batted in. Just to piss me off.
No, RBI.
Like you mean
just-
RBI runs batted in.
RBI whip. So here, all right. So here's a question based on stats because we talked about analytics, right? So, but we talked about the eye test, and you said, you pay attention to the analytics. Here's the thing. I think that WAR and sabermetrics are analytics. I think that batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, the stats we all know, those are just stats. Everything else is analytics, and you should go based off the simple stats rather than the analytics. Thoughts?
I think the analytics could be a tiebreaker for sure. Like, the weird stuff. Yeah, I like that. That's fair to say for sure. Because analytics is like, there's that one guy in the front office that like is wearing a polo. He's an intern and knows how to like do some stuff. And you're like, oh God, I didn't know. I hate those people because I feel stupid. I'm like, why do I get paid to cover this sport? You know everything. You go on TV. You go do your top eyeliner, wing eyeliner, and get your hair big. And you talk about this, sir, because I apparently don't know shit. So, but then I'd bring Brandon Crawford. Tell them about the eye test. Can you tell them about the eye test, please? Because I don't.
All right, so now I'm going to go to Brandon Crawford because the reason why I'm totally switching up on you, but the reason why I'm a de facto Giants fan, besides my grandmother being a huge Giants fan when they were still playing in New York when she was a kid, Brandon Belt, our wonderful first baseman for the San Francisco Giants, he and I lived in the same house when he played in the Cape Cod Baseball League back in 2008.
I believe Craig told me that.
Yes.
Joe, you'll be surprised how often I pimp that out to people.
Oh, good. You should, because he's one of my favorite human beings of all
Me
time.
too.
Actually, his wife is one of my favorite human beings of all time.
I love Brandon Belt. When I met him, we talked about Joey Votto, and obviously he's my favorite player. I don't know how much y'all know about me, but I love him. And I was on the pod with Alex Pavlovich, and he goes, my question was like, Brandon, when you're on first, like, do you talk about him? Because he's a talker. He's a great conversational guy. And I was like, and then Alex slid in. He goes, well, Jessica just is a big Joey Votto fan. And Brandon goes, I love Joey. And he like fist bumps me. If you stalk me on Instagram, you can find it. Me fist bumping Brandon Belt. And it just because like I was curious, like if I wouldn't have talked to anybody on first, it's always guys Rizzo all day, Freddie Freeman all day, Joey Votto all day, Brandon Belt all day. That's like the better version of The View. Put those four on TV, I will watch The View. I will start watching The View. Yeah. So, I mean, how could you not talk to them? Exactly. You're literally called Brandon Belt one of your favorite human beings. So that's why he was going to be a Major League Baseball first baseman.
Without a doubt. He's a guy that we would love to bring here to Boston. I think Fenway Park would be perfect for his swing.
I feel like he does really well in Milwaukee. Really, really
He
well.
does.
Really, really
I don't know if he wants to leave San Francisco. He might go back. If he had to go he's 33 years old now. If you went back,
What's wrong with being 33?
Yeah,
nothing's
Joe.
wrong with being 33 because I'm 33, but in baseball terms, that's pretty old.
But not baseball media term.
Right,
But not
yeah.
baseball media terms. No. Look at Erin Andrews. She's like 45 now. She looks like she's 22.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen,
We're talking about female reporters' ages. That's what we're doing now, Joe. That's what you want
I
to
don't
do.
even know how old Erin Andrews.
As a female reporter, I brought up my age. That's why it was brought up.
Yeah. But thanks, Mike, for trying to dig into that hole.
You're welcome.
He's like, I'm really trying to get out of the MLB thing. I'm really trying to make somebody else get third and make the bus right now.
He's really good when we don't have guests on at doing that, but when we do, they usually keep him accountable.
Gotcha.
Right.
And then they end up loving him at the end of this. This is bullshit.
I don't know that this is going that way though.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I do have my last question to you, because I definitely don't want to. We don't want to keep you over. What was the moment that hooked you with baseball?
Oh, I love this question. So I did play baseball. I didn't know softball existed, and when I played, I was addicted. But the cherry on top was my dad randomly got these free A's tickets, and I'm from Reno, so it was like a 3-hour drive to Oakland, and we got them, and it was like box seats for $2. So maybe they weren't free; they were $2 box seats. We show up, and the box seats are all sold out, but they're like, we're gonna honor the $2 for $2 seats in the general admission, but then we got box seats for $2 because they honored it. It was really dope. The moment I sit down, this guy goes yard, and I look at the program, and it's Eric Chavez, and him and I shared a birthday, a few years apart, of course, but he was the third baseman, which was really cool because just that week in Little League, I stopped playing first base and I switched to third base. And I was like, I don't know how to play third, but I had this gun on me. They're like, no, I don't keep you at first base because you have an arm. And so when I switched to third base, I wanted to learn about the position. And this guy that I saw hit a home run goes yard. And I think somebody in the outfield, either Milton Bradley or somebody else, or Shannon Stewart, they made a diving catch that made it SportsCenter top 10. Now that was when all I knew was ESPN. I didn't know anything else existed, probably because nothing else really did. And then the center fielder was Mark Kotze, and he was living in Reno. He resided in Reno. So it's like all those beautiful things. Fast forward 10 years later, and I'm on the field throwing, Eric Chavez is throwing out the first pitch, and I'm covering my first big league game. And so it's kind of like, I knew God was like, you have to cover the A's. Because the moment I got home from that game, I was like, Dad, I'm going to be a reporter for the A's. I straight up told him, and he was like, okay. And then I did it. So it was just kind of cool from that perspective. And then, being a woman in this sport has been not as challenging as I thought it would. It's not great, but I know it's opened a lot of doors for me. And I have a beautiful platform to share with women. So to be able to do all of that while living out the dream that I told my dad I would at 12 is just like so dope,
That's so cool to hear that story, because it's like, as we've, again, same generation. And it's so funny when we talk to women who are in sports and they tell us their stories, and it's like, so we were literally getting home from school watching ESPN, and you were getting home from school and watching ESPN. Like that's what we were all doing. Yeah. And we just really talked about it. So that's pretty cool. And it's like to have that support and then actually put your mind to it and go and do it. It's what's made women in sports and in your field so much more mainstream. And that's really happened within the last 5 to 7 years. Because, 5-7 years ago, it was, they just put her on the sideline because she's a pretty face. And now with podcasts and, I correct me if I'm wrong, but like Erin Andrews, Jenny Dell, and there's so many more women that have really trailblazed that profession for you guys. And it's really cool to just see you guys doing it, because it is very much from a very straightforward sports point of view. And I love that about women in sports.
Yeah. And I feel like I accepted it early on that like, I'm not going to have the same MLB resumes. Like if I'm on the panel with Dallas Braden and Dontrell Willis, we know the resumes between all of us, but I know the right questions to ask. I'm not scared to ask the questions, and people just really open up to me too. It's the one thing that I'm so lucky with. Like a lot of people are always like, oh, Chapman's really difficult to talk to. I couldn't get him to shut up, and it's cool to be able to do that from not just the guy underneath the uniform, but I want to know like how his hips doing and how he covers all that ground after just undergoing surgery. And as a defensive nerd, I want to learn things too. So it's a little bit of everything. And you want to make sure that like you're hitting on all the different accounts that the hardcore baseball fan's happy with, the person who doesn't care about baseball is happy with, the person who only wants to see me talking is happy with, all of that stuff. And I think that I'm lucky enough to be able to do all of that. And I think being a woman has a big part of that.
Yeah. Were you a big Reno Aces fan as a kid?
I didn't really have any other choice.
Yep, fair enough.
But that's why I saw Eric Burns for the first time, and then now he's like, begging me to work with him. So that's really cool too. So not that I don't enjoy working with Eric, but it was cool to be like, sure, Eric, I'll host a show with you.
You're a big major league guy.
Yeah, it's a good guess if I don't have anything to do. But he actually discovered me a long time ago on Twitter. He was just like, this girl's so funny and witty. And then boom, now we have like a really fun show. And he just lives in Truckee. Well, he's in Savannah now, but we've always lived close together too. It's just like crazy how some of these things work out.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, he's awesome.
So before we get you out of here, where can our listeners find you and stay updated on all of your future projects that we can't really discuss right now? But when you can, where can they find you?
Yeah, you guys should act like I didn't tell them anything, guys, but we can pretend like I did. So you guys have all the info. At Kleinschmidt JD is my Twitter. Jessica Kleinschmidt is my Instagram. You guys know for now, I literally post everything. I'm on eBay and it tripped me out. So I tweeted about it today. So, I don't hold anything back, but hopefully once this lockout stuff gets figured out, I can announce more things. But that's the main reason why I hate this lockout is it's literally holding me back from a lot of jobs. So
on that real quick, and that was kind of Mike's last thing, but now the biggest thing is going to be minor league baseball, college baseball. It's kind of been what everyone is pushing is, all right, if we don't have major league baseball, we have college baseball, which has been in full swing for now 3 weeks. Is there opportunities for you guys as in your group of reporters to be able to cover some stuff like that? Or are you guys?
Yeah, but it's no different than anything else. A lot of times they already had their people picked out, and all of that. So it's a lot of playing audibles, like just, what can you do? But I'm hoping it doesn't last too long. And I'm hoping that people understand that there's only so much I can do at this point, but there's always opportunities. So, but yeah, they already have their stuff kind of taken care of, but I am available if they need anything.
That's more what I was doing, and we'll share.
Yes,
you didn't tell us.
Absolutely, yes,
I'm gonna hire you. What's that SEC network you want?
I can spell it too. So I'm already halfway there.
Bingo. Well, you were a college dropout, so we had to make sure you could spell SEC.
A community college dropout.
Jesus, keeps getting worse.
It's okay. We're junior college graduates.
Okay, well, nobody likes to brag or Craig. Okay.
I went back and got my bachelor's.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
Well, Jess, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a soundbite that will live on in infamy. What I will say, the MLB, on over and over again on these airwaves. So I really appreciate it. But again, honestly, you're fucking awesome to talk to.
Oh, thank you. You guys are too.
Thank you.
So for Jessica Kleinschmidt and Broadway Joe Malkin and Craig D'Alessandro, this is Michael Marcangelo saying thank you so much for listening to Missing the Point.
Electricast. Welcome to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing, where we harmonise your mind, body and soul. I'm Amanda, your sound therapy expert.
And I'm Stephen, the curious explorer uncovering the mysteries of sound.
Together we explore vibrations, frequencies and the power of sound therapy and tuning forks.
Discover ancient wisdom, reduce stress and tune into a healthier life. Subscribe to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing today.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, is that the set? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big hole. Touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electricast. Electricast.